Okay, so let's start the official part. So I'm really happy to see you at least in little pictures if you can't meet really in real life. We were supposed to meet as badge partners this year in Germany, and we will go to Germany because we have the funds. So just a little word maybe about GELS and badge. Maybe some of you might not know about it. So Jamie, could you just start from the origins, just say 2.5 words about GELS?
Yes, the GELS network began in 2015. And really, we had two aims, really. The first was to better prepare engineering students for international study and future employment, with a clear focus on their communication needs. And secondly, to provide opportunities for language and communication teachers working with engineers to network, share experience, good practice, and ensure some kind of continued professional development. So yes, we're now teachers from 30 institutions. Some of you are here. And we have this 3-year Erasmus Plus project, the Badge project, becoming a digital global engineer. I hope that you'll hear lots about the different parts of the project today. And I hope that you'll find that it's a natural extension of the original aims of the GELS network. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much for this nice introduction. And so, yeah, as you said, badge is just an extension of GELS. So if you're not in the badge project, which is an Erasmus funded project, but if you want to work with any of the groups who are presenting their results, their aims also today, please feel free to join the groups. It's just a matter of money we can give to the different groups, and only those who have joined the application. But everybody can work, of course. So it might be of your natural interest as a teacher to work on the different topics. So you're most welcome to join the different groups and to work with them. So the badge project is a 3-year project. We started last year. Of course, it was a bit difficult as we couldn't meet now, but we still work a lot online because we're so far away one from the other. And as we are quite a lot of people, we have 14 partners from 12 countries. So we decided to work in several groups. So everybody chose a group which corresponds to their interest, or their maybe also what they work already on and they wanted to go further with. So we have 8 different work groups. Some of them have more than 2 members, some of them only 2. So everybody will present their aims and their first results today. And we hope really that we get a lot of feedback, a lot of comments from every participants, badge or not badge, GELS or not GELS, to go further, because we have 2 more years to go. And in the end, what we would like to present, we are obliged to present, because we said that in the application, is an open source platform where every language teacher could just grab some resources, some modules, etc., and implement them in their language class and intercultural class, specifically for engineers. And if the engineering students follow a class based on the resources we developed, they will get a badge. That's what the name is about also, a digital badge, which can then attest what they learned. And they can put it as a digital image on their CVs, on the networks. They can also put it as an image on papers. So we hope that this is interesting for our students, not only to have a diploma, but also have this combination of sometimes formal and informal education for their further career as engineers. And of course, we are really happy to work with everybody who wants to join. Okay, but now I think we go further, and maybe Björn, you could just say some words about Lillian before she starts her presentation, and we're really thrilled to have her with us today.
Yes, thank you, Katja. So we are indeed really happy that Lillian has volunteered to join us as a keynote speaker, because since GELS represents a lot of technical universities in Europe, not only within the European Union, she contributes with views from the New World. And indeed, both from South America and North America, since Dr. Lilian Almeida is a PhD in engineering education, and she graduated actually last year from Utah State University with a dissertation called Understanding Industry's Expectation of Engineering Communication Skills, where she focused on the communication strategies in different sectors of the industry and the difference there between. She also looked into intergenerational challenges with engineering communication. She's now a postdoctoral research associate at Old Dominion University in Virginia, but originally she's from, which you might have guessed from her name, she's from Brazil, where she worked for some 10 years with engineering students, helping them to become marketable professionals by teaching business and marketing. So in many ways, she's doing what we are doing. Her dissertation did partly what the GELS network originally did by looking into the actual communication needs of engineers. But she has also been looking at stuff that I think that at least within the badge project, we haven't so far really dealt with, that is the intergenerational differences in communicative strategies. So I'm super happy that she said yes to this, and I'm looking forward to a presentation where I think we will be hearing both these parts. But with this, I leave the floor to Lilian. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Jelgreen, for this honor to be the opening speaker, and thank you for the badge participants. It's really amazing opportunity to be connected with you. It's 1 a.m. now here in Utah, and good morning for everyone. I hope everybody's safe there. And well, can I start sharing my screen right now?
Yes, please do.
Okay. I think I am, okay. Everybody can see the presentation?
Yes, you're showing, yeah, now it's on the presentation.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to explain a little bit about the title of my presentation, Promoting Interested in Engineering Communication Expertise, because I know all of you are already experts in engineering communication, but the inspiration about this title is more related to one of the findings of our research. It seems that the more experienced engineers, the older generations of engineers, they really recognize the importance of communication, but they also perceive that the younger generation, they are still not so interested, or they are not so concerned about the value of the communication in the industry setting. So my idea here was to bring to reflection, considering that most of you are already teaching communication for engineering students, I would like you to reflect how you have been promoting actual interests. How are your students actually aware about the difference that communication is going to do in their careers? Are they aware about how this piece of their engineering professional is so important, and it's going to have such a great effect in their career performance? So I would like to start the presentation bringing this reflection. Another inspiration for this title was actually your brand badge. I really like it, becoming a digital global engineer. I thought it was really creative. And then I thought with myself, well, I also need to create a nice acronym that would be meaningful for this audience, because again, I was very impressed about this brand that you created there. In this presentation, instead of focus only in one of our studies, I decided that it would be better for you if I could bring some highlights of two different studies that I developed with my colleagues, Dr. Becker and Dr. Villanueva. So the first one is actually a paper based on my dissertation, Understanding Industry's Expectations of Engineering Communication Skills. And the second one is Engineering Communication in Industry and Cross-Generational Challenge, an exploratory study. Why is that important to learn a little bit more about the expectations of industry currently? Because even though we know that ABET, I don't know why my slide, oh yeah. Even though we know that ABET and other organizations have already established that communication is one of the outcomes of engineering communication, and even though many studies suggest that engineers, they spend more than half of their workday working, we also know that there are many studies that say that the communication skills of engineers tend to be weak. And also considering that many engineering departments have putting a lot of effort in developing communication skills of engineers. So our question was why this disconnection is still there? What are the current expectations of industry when it comes to the engineering communication skills? So inspired by this type of research question, we decided to listen from industry what are they expecting right now when it comes to engineering communication skills. And we decided to select 4 different segments of industry in the United States based on the industrial segments with the highest hiring rates in the United States according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And these segments of the industry are high-tech, automotive, aerospace, and manufacturing. We also decided to interview only engineers in leadership positions with many years of experience. So the participants of this research, their years of experience range from 14 to 34 years, and also their position are from managers to directors. And the companies, only one of them, the high-tech one, is a medium-sized company with 130 employees, but all the other companies, they are multinational companies with many employees, for example, 60,000, 12,000. So these companies, they were our sample. When we interviewed these engineers, we had also different intentions. We would like to know if there were differences among different segments of industry, and which would be the similarities in terms of engineering communication expectations. So we found more similarities than differences, and all the similarities in terms of expectations of engineering communication, they are actually already confirmed in the current scientific literature review. For example, oral communication is considered very, very important, is prevalent in the industry environment, and is actually the preferred mode of communication of the more experienced engineers. Written communication is the second more important mode, and according to their perceptions, there is still a lot of miscommunication in written in the industry environment. And they said that written communication is expected to be very clear, concise, and precise. Technical communication also is very prevalent in the industry setting, but also they mentioned that engineers is each day more and more involved with teamwork, and that's why they need so much to develop interpersonal communication skills and interdisciplinary communication skills. Not all the teams that they are going to be involved are formed only by engineers. Because nowadays, most of these companies, they have international partners, it was also mentioned that cross-cultural communication is very important. And also because nowadays we have so many different mediums of communication, and most of them are electronic, they suggested that e-communication nowadays is really, really important, and including emails, texts, instant messages, and other mediums. Public speaking is still important in the industry environment and is actually considered one of the challenges that engineers still need to overcome. But among all these aspects, what really caught our attention was the cross-generation communication aspect of engineering communication, because this was an unexpected topic, and also it could be considered like an emergent theme. And because of that, we decided to understand better about this specific topic among all these expectations mentioned by the engineering leaders. But before I go deeper in this specific topic, I also would like to show a little bit about the differences among these four different industrial segments when it comes to communication requirements of engineers. So, for example, in the high-tech segment, it was mentioned that communication is very technical, a lot of technical jargons. They have difficulty sometimes to translate this technical communication to the non-technical audience. But an interesting aspect of the high-tech segment is that it's an environment where communication is expected to be open and honest. They mentioned that they really expect engineers to communicate in a very direct way and in a language free from manipulation. In the aerospace industry, communication is very, very formal, tied to goals and plans, priorities, and technical documents. And on the other hand, in the manufacturing industry, it was mentioned a communication called non-hierarchical communication, where engineers are expected to be very flexible because they are going to communicate with people from different levels of education, different backgrounds, and this is one of the main characteristics of the manufacturing industry. And then again, cross-generation communication was consistently mentioned by the automotive engineers because as a challenge. So even though cross-generational communication was mentioned by all the four industrial segments, in the automotive segment specifically, it was mentioned as a big challenge in this specific industry. But what would be this challenge? Now we go deeper in this specific topic. So it was mentioned that the cross-generational challenge in engineering communication are mostly based on the communication styles of the different generations and also in the communication modes, the preferences related to communication modes. So one of the engineering participants, for example, provided this insight. The biggest challenge, I would probably say here is, we have individuals who are over 50 years old, and then you have individuals who are early 20s, who have just graduated from college. And so I think there's a big difference between the way, they want to communicate and the way we want to communicate. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, understanding the younger generation's needs and wants in the industry. Another interesting challenge is that oral communication, and especially face-to-face communication, is the preferred mode of communication of the more experienced engineers, while the less experienced engineers, the younger engineers, seem to be more comfortable with technology-based communication. So one of the participant engineers provided this specific idea about this. So I mean, I think the whole trend kind of have been, you know, I will receive a text or somebody will send me an email or an IM, but I still header, hey, don't send me a text, don't send me an IM, let's sit down and talk. So this was consistently observed among the engineering leaders. They really have a high preference by face-to-face communication, and they perceive the younger generations insisting in continuing using e-communication or technology-based communication. The more experienced engineers are able to communicate with more humility, while less experienced engineers will need to develop this ability. That was another very interesting aspect that we observed through these interviews. So, for example, one of the engineers, he said, what engineers need is humility more than anything else. I think a lot of young engineers don't appreciate the impact to their own careers and to the effectiveness of their job that their own ability to communicate is. And I think a lot of young engineers believe that being a really smart guy is enough, and that's never enough. Another interesting aspect of cross-generational engineering communication is that the more experienced engineers tend to communicate with a wider spectrum of audiences, including but not limited to clients, co-workers, vendors, and other stakeholders. And of course, communication is expected to be tailored according to the audience and the situation. So as explained one of the participant engineers, so who we communicate or who I communicate with is very wide, broad swath of people. And again, that's verbal. Those who are at this level, things are relationship driven more than anything else. Younger engineers probably have a more narrow spectrum of people that they are involved with. Those are only some highlights, a portion of all our findings, but I think that it's enough to give some suggestions when it comes to implications for practice. So, for example, the first one, communication instruction in engineering programs could explore the cross-generation aspect of communication, trying to motivate the students to think strategically about all the generations that are going to coexist in the workplace and how to align their communication strategies, their communication modes and mediums according to these different generations coexisting in the industry. Also, the attitude of humility in communication could be taught as part of a capstone course or as a training module, and the perspectives of the engineering leaders could be shared with the younger engineering students to help them situate their role in industry upon hire. Considering all the similarities and the differences among the four industrial segments, communication instructors could build on this information and somehow explore and tailor their instruction. So, for example, many engineers talked about how oral communication matters greatly. And at least here in the United States, sometimes we see engineering communication instruction to focus on written communication. So why not give more emphasis to oral communication and increase the skills that they need, not only for public speaking, but also for interpersonal interactions, teamwork, and those types of interactions. And finally, I also would like to suggest, based on my current experience, that in order to promote interest in engineering communication expertise, to make the students really value communication in their profession, it's better if you use more modern instructional strategies, for example, active learning or service learning. So give an example now about the project that I am involved at Old Dominion University. It's called Ed Engineering Project. And in this project, they team engineering students and education students. They form multidisciplinary teams, and they teach an engineering lesson to elementary students. And we are observing the benefits for both education and engineering students. And I can tell that from the engineering student side, they are valuing a lot the communication skills that they are developing, and they can see how important it is the multidisciplinary communication and the cross-generational communication. The multidisciplinary because, of course, they are working with education students, and the cross-generational communication because they are also working with kids. So you can tell how excited they feel about, looking at their own development of new communication skills, and they definitely realize that they are going to benefit from this experience in their future career. So those are, again, only some small portions of our research. And I thank you again very much, and I will be open now to questions.